just to do it today.
Do what?
The episode. I'm in pain, man. Come on, Spine.
Let's go.
Just once.
Let's go.
This is something you wanted to do, you know?
Spine, please, man.
Let's go.
Just once.
Come on.
Fox, I just wait a Spine.
I have 911 on speed dial.
Let's go. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 66. Today, we're going to go over do's and don'ts of the guillotine, part 2. Figured yesterday was a lot of questions on this, so we're going to continue with this. No gi. So let's get right to it. Guys, start putting in the questions in the comments, all right? So one of the things is if I snap Enrique's head down and I'm about to go for guillotine and Enrique decides to go for a takedown. Guys, one of the biggest things you need to do is let him kind of dictate the pace, how fast forward he goes. You don't want to dive underneath him. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make is they can't wait to get in that position. So if he's going slow, I'm going to fall very slow. Okay? What I'm concerned about is maintaining my body position relative to his. What sometimes happens as he's coming in, people start to, I want to get underneath him. Guess what? You just made him pass your guard. So basically, when you rush to get underneath them, and usually what people do is they can't wait to jump and pull guard. You will see a lot of failed guillotines go down that way. Understand that if you have no arming guillotine, even with arming guillotine, I want my guard to be off, a little bit off to the side, not fully closed. But especially no arming guillotine, a lot of people, when you get underneath him, you line up directly underneath him. That's when the failure comes in because that's where he wants to be to defend it. All right? It's actually pretty easy to defend it once you're in somebody's guard. You just drive forward and take it away from him. So again, if he's coming in hard and fast, I'm going to go hard and fast, but I'm going to let him dictate that pace. I want to make sure that my body positioning stays the way I want it to. I focus on my shoulder forward. If he goes slow, so if it's a slow takedown, I just, all right? So that's a very important point. Understand guillotine is a bit of a misnomer. You're not trying to cut the guy's head off. What you're trying to do is cause constriction on both carotids. All right? You want to put people out. I have put people out with this many a time. So that was Anaconda at episode 19. So you want to make sure that you want to stay heavy on that shoulder, whichever one you choose. Most people will have better right-handed guillotine. I have better left-handed guillotine. And maintain the body positioning relative to his. You want to go almost perpendicular, and you want him to be next to you, not between your legs. All right? So that's one of the biggest common mistakes that people make is diving underneath. And this is what it looks like. If I dive underneath, I go like this. Oh. I might have this. Oh, I got this now. So I should have stretched better now.
Tables have turned.
Tables have turned. So the point is when you go straight, you're giving the guy a chance to squash you. Now let's look what happens if I put Enrique, if I put him in guard and close my legs. All right, go to town. Yeah, it's gone. So I don't want him in my guard. I don't want him in my guard. I want him off to the side, and I want to maintain that positioning. Okay? Are there questions on this so far, Mike?
Yes. Richardus on Facebook is asking, How do you properly do a blast double to avoid exposing your neck?
Head inside. Yeah. Head on the inside.
And lots of peers asking, if you get flat on your back when you apply your guillotine, do you keep it or do you switch for a follow-up?
Yeah, that's a good question because that's where we're going to go next. If I'm flat, I know it's going to fail. Very high probability it's going to fail. So I start to maneuver for a follow-up. So let's just so if Enrique is flat, so I know so I have my guard is closed. All right. So as he starts to drive, what I'm looking to do is trying to get over his arm. If I can, that's what my goal is. Guys, not always possible. That's if the guy winds up in your guard, it's either you put him there or he's really good at circling. Third possibility, you allow him to circle. That's one of the reasons why I have my left leg in, just on the outside so I can maintain that positioning. So if he winds up in my guard, I either failed to keep him at that angle. A lot of people just literally, they when they get that grip, they diving underneath, which means you put him right there. And third possibility is that he just sort of like, that's how you wound up off the shot. It was just not a good time. That was the only thing you had available. So let's look at what we do is if he's in my guard. So I've been here many a time, guys. This is again, he's high level guys. So I had to close my guard. And as Enrique starts, he's going to be moving to his left, to my right, and trying to cut the angle. So what I'm trying to do is continue to pressure him so I can get underneath his arms. This is not going to necessarily going to be easy. So go ahead. So as he's doing this, this is going to be a little bit of work. I can't be careless about it because if he pins my leg, now it's going to be very rough. All right. So when I see this, all right, I start to slip my knee. I make sure that it's not quite. If my leg goes down, he can pin it. So I'll keep my leg up high, and as we're swimming, I'm going to lock up the triangle. Here, my angle is off, but I already have my shin pretty far across. I will lock up a straight triangle, and then go to the finish. So pay attention how you do this, guys, because again, if you try to drop your leg low, he's going to pin it. Now he's going to pass your guard. Okay? So as he's driving forward, all right, I start to drop my knee. And I keep my left hand. Well, if I can get this, yes, this is going to be good. Yeah, if this happens, guys, yeah, by all means. If he starts to reach really far behind, just grab his hand. All right? So, as he's doing this, right? I can still do it. Now, if I see how my left leg starts to drift out, if that's the case, I just switch into a reverse triangle. Okay? Whichever one he gives you. It's very important. All right? Guys, pay attention to that wandering hand of his. If you can get a grip on it, take it, because this is very, very, very rough. So as he's driving, if I can get a hold on that arm of his, this is going to be very bad. I'm going to give Enrique a nice gentle stretch.
Spanish, are you sure you want to change? Tap.
I kind of like where I'm at.
Too late, guys. So pay attention to that arm. If it starts to... So my leg positioning remains in a way that he can't just... If I drop my left leg, it's easy. He just pins it. If my leg stays up high, so as I'm disengaging, drop, he has to kind of either reach back too far, where he exposes his own arm, or as he's going through it, I will get over his shoulder And now I will lock up. It's if I can lock up straight triangle, great. If I can't, you know, I'll switch into reverse. So as he's driving. So if I can lock this way, if I can, I just switch. And now. This is done. So that is sort of usually what I do.
That answered Kanai Kiyoshi's question, and the lots of peers specified from your regular guillotine if you go flat, from your style guillotine.
This is my style guillotine.
Well,
Without closing your guard, he means.
Oh, I don't go. I won't go flat.
well, yeah.
I think. No, he flattens a lot of you.
Yeah, if he flattens me out. So if it's my style guillotine, he kind of is. It's very difficult for him to put me flat, and when he does, he's exposing a lot of other follow-ups. Yes.
GM Baseball says, out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yes.
And Tom Kelly says, bad morning for Enrique.
It's all right. It's how he gets more flexible.
And Dustin Williamson says, is the danger of being Von Flued the same for high elbow guillotine as standard guillotine, or is it more like a 5-finger guillotine?
5-finger guillotine, you don't get Von Flued. High elbow guillotine is very difficult to Von Flued. Because your own forearm is in the way of him to drive on your neck.
And Chris, their insider on Instagram is saying, hello from Germany. Can you show us the easiest way to take down my opponent? Thank you.
It depends.
Tell him to pull guard.
If the guy knows nothing, so I'll snap him down. You know, I'll. Okay.
Yeah.
I think Enrique knows too much. So it depends, like when your body positioning, how you close, it's just, there is no one answer. It's sort of like asking, what is the best knockout punch? What is the best submission in jiu-jitsu? Depends on your game, depends on who your opponent is, depends what your opponent knows, depends what setup you use, depends on is it a straight, is it a self-defense, or is it a MMA fight? Is it a grappling? There's a lot of different answers. If everything was that simple and easy, guys, I would have finished with episode probably 5 or 7.
And Dustin Williamson is asking, can you finish a high elbow guillotine if they beat your leg and pass to the wrong side?
My wrist may not allow me to do that. If he jumps, I'm going to feel it in my wrist. So the answer is possibly, but, because my wrists are twisted to begin with, if he jumps and my wrists go in a weird direction, it's going to be rough for me. I might verbally tap. That would be a scream.
Self-tap.
Self-tap, yeah.
And Antonio Sotillo is asking, Do you think Kimura, guillotine, and eshigurami are always available, at least as a form of control?
Yes. Yes. I think a lot of submissions, Ashigurami is not a submission, it is a leg entanglement, so it's not a submission itself, but guillotine is a submission, Kimura is a submission, triangle is a submission. All those submissions can be used as a form of control as well. And any basically submission can be used as a form of control. For me, a lot of times if I go for a wrist lock, cow hand, I will use it more as a way for him to straighten out the arm. So people will respond to pain or possibility of danger in predictable ways. So if you can cause your training partner, opponent pain, they will move to get away from that pain. So that's also a valuable way to go into, is to control them and make them move in a certain way.
And Valhagarda is asking, how often do you use Kimuras, and when is the right time to go for it?
I rarely use Kimuras. The time that I tend to use it when I'm on top. From the bottom, I don't like it for me personally because even though I have 2-on-1, if the guy is strong and flexible, they can overpower me. So if I'm on the bottom of half guard, and I get a good grip, I'm gonna let him pass guard, and then I'm trying to spin out to the other side, right? Go. Yeah. Oh. Yes. All right. So when I tend to use Kimuras is from the top. So if I'm on the top, and the reason I like it is because from here I can control. So even if I feel like the guy's overpowering me, I can always pop into an arm lock, or I have inverted triangles and scissor chokes. So I usually use Kimura from the top. From the bottom, I will use different submission as a form of control. Usually just one arm, and I try to control it with my torso, a la split guard or guillotine grips. All right. There was something I was going to show from the guillotine. Transition to the triangle. The underhooks. So, again, I don't want to be square to Enrique, right? Now, if there's a threat that he's going to try to jump, I try to crucifix him. Again, I use crucifix submission more as a form of control. I don't like to submit people from here. Now, sometimes what happens as I'm going for the triangle, he starts to move a little too far away. In which case I will switch into Urigatami. All right, so that's another sort of follow-up you might have. So if I'm failing with this, I will push him away and I attack Urigatami. This time I needed to switch into an inverted arm lock. All right. So again, notice that if the guy if he tries to square up to you, whether it was your mistake or he made it happen, where they start to square up to you in your guard and start to hunt for the Von Flu, you can take that arm, but you need to make sure that you create enough space with your legs. All right? So, as he's hunting, what I'm looking to do is push him away. And if he's pinning my leg, I'm going to try to either go over his shoulder or actually invert all the way into invert. Usually you can finish here. When you're facing his legs, that'd be my first attempt to finish. If he rolls, I catch him. It doesn't matter what he does with his leg. Just play around with it. Put it anywhere you want.
Tap. Tap.
so it doesn't really matter where he puts that leg that's closer to his hips. But anytime you start to have the guy drive for the Von Flue, you need to start to push him away with your hips. Ideally, if you could do it, if you can sort of push him away at one time, you could attack that Urigitami and use it as a setup for other things to go into.
And from the academy, we have watching Eddie Pantoja, Yensi, Cosmo, Moises.
What's up, guys?
We also have Anthony Tosca, Andrew, Yorlin.
Nice.
And the question that we have, GM Baseball is asking, so I take it you don't teach the hip bump, sweep, Kimura, and guillotine combo from close guard since you don't like the Kimura too much.
Usually, if I do the hip heist, hip bump, sweep. So if I go, yeah. Right now I don't have my Kimura will fail. Can you turn around so you can see? So my Kimura will not succeed. I got to twist too far, and now I actually risk my back being taken. Are we doing this? Okay. We're doing this. So, do you understand why I wouldn't have gone for Kimura? If you post out here, yes, then you have the Kimura. But if he's posting, so the point is with the hip bump sweep, it's, you know, against a high-level guy, they know what they're doing. If they time their push forward really well, meaning that they just push you back, you don't create an opportunity for yourself other than the guillotine. So that could be there. So as I can wrap his head. The problem now is I need to try to get myself off to my right side. This is not easy. Right now, I'm still in a rough position because I have him in my close guard. So right now, I would start to basically counter his counter, try to keep. So I need to continue the movement, trying to hip out to the right. So I use mostly his body to allow my hips to start to move out to the right. So if I'm square up, your shoulder is going to be like this. If I just get to the side, I don't have to tighten my guillotine at all. It just naturally starts to bring his head down. So that alone starts to break his posture down. Okay? So don't forget, guys, when you're like this, naturally this is the movement you're going to be doing, like you're cutting his head off. When you're turning to your side, and I'm not making, normally I will make it this tighter. This is what I want. But even if you don't, if you get on your side, you're bringing his head down, and the pressure with your shoulder on top of his head gets actually stronger. So that's just the way you should go. So even if you don't tighten your arm, which you should be tightening, that alone puts him in much, much greater danger. Breaks his posture, so you have other things you might possibly be able to do.
Eddie says, love the inverted arm bars. And Caleb Throop says, when your guillotine is that on point, who needs the Kimura?
Oh, I like that. Yeah. It's don't get me wrong, Kimura is good. There's a lot of like Enrique's brother Juan. He uses Kimura very effectively to hunt for the back. You know, he uses the Kimura trap very, very effectively. Probably out of my black belts, he probably uses the most effectively. But you know, everybody's got their little specialties and things that they're good with. So it's not a bad weapon. It's just, you know, if I hip heist or hip bump or whatever you want to call it. So if I go here, if you post out here, I have it. But I still have to get my hips to my side. If you fail, so if I fail, he could start to go around. All right? Yeah, this is bad. So either case, I need to make sure that I get my hips. I'm not gonna hip bump. If you're that low, I'm not gonna hip bump you. So if I hip bump it, I need to make sure that my hips come out to the side.
Tap.
Okay. Now, if that arm is not there, I personally prefer to go for the guillotine. So, hip bump. So if I hip bump, I can wrap his head, and now I'm in a position that I don't necessarily want to be. Right now, I lost the no arm guillotine, so I have to go with arm. So now I'm going to be trying to either lift and trying to change the angle. I just did. Okay? So either one is a bit of a work. By me personally, I like the guillotine follow-up better than a Kimura if I'm bumping into him.
And a lot is asking, would it help Enrique if he's grabbing your choking hand?
It's kind of too late. So if you, so give me, so come, grab. His hands have to come forward. You know, if somebody's doing this, almost by nature, you sort of start to lean back. So it makes it, that hip bump, much more effective. So usually you know, if you're here and the guy decides to hip bump you, basically this is the way you want to go. You want to go down. So if you go, instead of trying to push him back down, if you go to your neck, you're much more vulnerable to be knocked over to your back.
And Adolfo Fronda is asking, Fox, I noticed you use the hands reaching up under his armpits in various transitions when you've lost position. For example, on being taken down or bottom of guillotine. Where else do you apply this? It's a very interesting and effective steering wheel, if you will.
Everywhere. Everywhere. Anytime I get a chance, that hand is exposed if I'm on the bottom of cross side, if I'm hunting for an omoplata, if I'm pretty much anytime I see that hand reaching, I'll grab it. Because basically that's, now whatever he was doing is out the window. So I try to use it everywhere. It's, you know, I have taught it so my students have seen this. I try to teach it from the bottom of cross side or from a takedown. So my students know some of the sort of simpler setups. For the more complex ones, I think you guys, it has to be sort of something that starts to get into your brain and eventually it'll get into your body where you sort of start to look for it. Anytime that elbow flares out, I'm grabbing it. And a lot of times I will make him flare it out the way so I will, if he grabs my hand, I will let him have it and I just push into it. So if he has a good grip and you push into it, suddenly his elbow flares out. So yeah, I do that a lot and it's saves my butt a lot of times in positions that are either bad positions or it started out as a good attack on my part, but he took it away from me. So it's sort of a bit of a Hail Mary save.
And Anand says, hashtag pray for Enrique.
Yeah, so we got 1 minute. So let me just go, you know, I've shown this. So Enrique, so, I don't know. He has a good overhook and grabs my hand. So, yeah, now it's a problem. Yeah, now he has a choice. You know, what are you gonna do now? Yeah, this is what most people do. You know, now I'm gonna get it down fairly easily. We're going to submission. Everything must result in submission.
Tap.
All right. So that's, yeah, that's a good catch, but I use it pretty much anywhere, top, bottom, defensively, offensively. I just look for it all the time. I think, like I said, I've shown it to my students in the academy, like usually off the takedown, but it's sort of, even my high level guys don't have it fully honed. They don't look for it. So I got to figure out a more effective way to teach that idea to make sure that, you know, my top guys look for it. Watch, he's gonna be looking for it. And we're out of time. Do we have any last minute questions? So guys, again, if you enjoy this stuff, you know, like us, share us, subscribe us, tag us, friend us, follow us. Silver Fox BJJ everywhere. All right. Website silverfoxbjj.com. On YouTube, Silver Fox BJJ channel.
Well, it will be the channel, but
it is a channel.
Yeah, the name is just Silver Fox BJJ.
Yeah. Okay. Glad we clarified that. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow for episode 67, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Guys, stay well, stay safe, and be considerate. Be nice to others.